you want to learn, you can do that kind of pair up. So check it out, create an account. All you need to do is sign in. We support Privy, so if you don't have a Web3 wallet, you can just log in with your email. But if you do have something like MetaMask or Rainbow or whatever wallet you use, you can connect with that. Once you log in, you'll be able to basically build your profile. So I'm using like sign in with Ethereum here, and you can go here to the profile page. And you can add all your information, like what your name is, your email address. You can verify your email. You can connect your GitHub here, and you can also put in all your socials. And then you can say like what skills you're really good at. So you can like build this profile on like what you are kind of proud about, right? And then you can also say like what exactly you want to learn. So if you have like a specific thing that you're looking to learn, and then you can also say what languages you speak, and you can make your profile public and say if you're open to work opportunities. We'll be working with like recruiters to actually get people in front of recruiters with their digital resume. And you'll kind of get an idea of what that profile looks like if we come here and look at like, we can look at my profile. We have this kind of like user profile page where you can see the user and you can see what they're good at, what they want to learn. You can see what community roles that they have, what projects they're kind of involved with, and you can also see what they've built. So you can notice down here we have this kind of like checkbox that shows that because this is a connected GitHub account, we can kind of verify that the source code submitted for this project is like legit, comes from this GitHub. And so this is really valuable for recruiters that are looking for people that know how to build stuff in the space through here. So yeah, check it out. I'd love for you guys to check it out. I think I'm probably gonna have to ditch this microphone because I cannot type and hold this microphone. So I'm just gonna speak really loud. And what's the mic stand? Oh, there's a mic stand. That's 1, 2. All right, we can do this. All right. So who here is working at, who here is working in crypto, like full time? Any of you guys? Who's working like in Web 2, like a traditional Web 2 kind of thing? Who's trying to get a job in Web 2 or Web 3? Kind of like new to the space. Okay, so like kind of a even subset. First I kind of want to talk a little bit about Scaffold-ETH. So one of the first things that when I first came into like building on Ethereum, there was a lot of tools out there that it was really hard to figure out exactly what to build with. And it took me a while to like, sift through all the different options until I eventually came across Scaffold-ETH. Who here has heard of Scaffold-ETH before? Okay, so just a few of you. What's cool about Scaffold-ETH is it's like a starter kit. And so it's perfect for hackathons. It really comes with like everything you need to build a dApp on Ethereum. It comes with the wallet connection. It comes with the front end with Next.js. It comes with either Hardhat or Foundry, depending on which chain you want to use. There's lots of examples and there's lots of extensions for it as well. There's one for a subgraph, which is very useful if you want to go for the graph bounty. And so it's just a really good starting point to kind of like get your project off the ground. And we're going to use it today for like our little vibe code session. It's got decent docs, like they're really good. They're very simple, but they just tell you exactly what you need to know. Some of the stuff that's really cool about them is they have built-in components and hooks, which I'll explain to what those are. By the way, who's a front-end developer here? Who says, I love front-end development? Then Scaffold-ETH is for you, because if you're not a front-end developer, there's a lot of stuff that's already built for you that makes it really easy to implement a front-end for your smart contracts. Smart contracts are very easy to write, in my opinion, especially now with vibe coding. Obviously, if the contract is holding money, you need to be very careful, right? Because the contract is kind of like a safe. But it's a very simple language, like writing smart contracts in Solidity. Where it really gets complex is how you hook up your front end to your smart contract and start building out your UI and make it work the way you want. And luckily with vibe coding, that's a lot easier at this point in our life. But still being said, like Scaffold-ETH makes it a lot easier for you. One of the other things is if you go to the Graph Protocol GitHub, there's an examples repository. And we try to create this like master repo that has like all of the different examples of implementation of how to do something in the graph. And there's a bunch of explanations of how to do this with Scaffold-ETH. So like, let's say you want to use the token API, right? You can come into this token API directory, and there is a token API Scaffold-ETH project. You can click that. And this is a full-blown starter kit, basically, for interacting with Scaffold-ETH and utilizes the token API. And we'll get to exactly what the token API here is here in a second. But if you're looking for an example of how to implement something and you're going to do the hackathon, this might be a good reference point for you to just figure out, you know, like a good starting point. Another really good one is this one right here. Sorry, this is probably really hard to read. Is this one, the graph agent Scaffold-ETH. This is actually uses Vercel AI SDK, and it has a built-in AI agent functionality where you can actually query the graph over that AI agent. So it's using Vercel AI SDK, OpenAI, and it's using Scaffold-ETH. So you can also write smart contracts and deploy those and interact with them with your agent. And it also has all the functionality to query the token API from the AI agent and to query the subgraphs as well. So I know I'm throwing a lot of terms out there, so I want to kind of level set on the graph, and you can kind of like get an understanding of what the graph offers. Who here has actually used the graph before? Anybody? A few of you guys? Cool. Got some fans here. So the graph is a decentralized network for making blockchain data accessible. One of our flagship products is what's called Subgraphs, which are GraphQL-based APIs for blockchain data that are very customizable. So if you're a developer and you write a smart contract and you want to extract all the events that come off of that contract into a database, it's kind of hard to do. Like, you need to kind of create some kind of script that runs, and you got to keep track of like blocks, and you got to keep track of like, you know, settlement between the blocks. And so what subgraphs do is they make it really easy to do that. You can basically create a subgraph, and it will index all the data into Postgres on the indexers that you don't even have to worry about. And it will just give you a GraphQL API, so you can quickly just kind of interface with that. And so there's some existing subgraphs on the network that you can go to. If you go to subgraphs here, there's the Subgraph Explorer, and you can find like Uniswap or like any major popular protocol that's on a chain that the graph supports is going to probably have a subgraph there. If you want to build your own subgraph, you can use the Subgraph Studio. And all you need to do is know the contract address and give that to the graph command line, and it will basically build a subgraph for you, and it will help you deploy one to the network. So if you're doing just basic events and stuff like that, the subgraphs is the way to go. Substreams is a streaming protocol for streaming data. It's if you want to get more than just event data, maybe you want to do like very advanced stuff, like you want to get transactions, you want to get and everything inside of a block, then Substreams is a really cool product for that. It uses a completely different method of indexing data. It uses Rust, so it's a little more complicated. And by the way, there's going to be a workshop at ETH Global, so if you are going on the graph, and this will probably be a little bit more in depth, and we will have a booth, so if you guys have questions, just let me know. But Substreams is Rust-based, and it lets you put the data into any database you want, okay? So if you're building like, you know, something where you need like real-time data for like transactions, or you need something that is not in just a normal event, you would want to look at that. Then we have the token API, which is basically exactly that. It's data about tokens, so metadata, transfers, balances. There's also a Uniswap endpoint on it as well. So if you want to get information about like the current price in Uniswap, or the last swaps that happened, or the last pools that were created, any kind of like DeFi related stuff for Uniswap is in there. And it's a good like thing for if you're going to build like a wallet, or if you're going to build something where you need like token information, right? Like maybe like a community token, then you could use the token API. That is a REST API. So that is completely different. It's not GraphQL, it's a REST API. So it's got all of the endpoints available, and you can just query it with an API key. And that's that. Then there's Hypergraph, which I'm not going to get into today, but Hypergraph is a framework for creating decentralized knowledge graph applications, which is really cool. I know that's a word, like a mouthful, but basically it's this idea of like creating composable data on knowledge graphs on Geo, which is basically using the graph. And so there's going to be a much detailed workshop at ETH Global. So if you're going to go into that, you'll learn a lot more about that. But let's just get going. I think I've kind of talked a little bit and just started at least giving you guys a good overview of what the graph is. I think we can like try to build something and kind of go from there. So if we go to, we could do a couple things. We could either use one of our example repos. I think that's probably the best bet. We'll take this like examples project and we can kind of like fork it basically. So if anyone here is new to coding, all we need to do is basically like copy this URL and we can clone it down and we can then go into the directory and then install all the dependencies for it, okay? So on this one, there's only one branch, it's main. So let's go ahead and do that. So we can do git clone and then put in that URL. And this will clone the examples repo. And then we can go into that examples repo, and then inside of there's the token API. And then inside of there is the token API Scaffold-ETH. So I guess we'll try to use this one because I think it's a good example of like, Scaffold-ETH, but still utilizing something on the graph. So when you would normally, like if you were gonna not use the graph at all, if you go to scaffold-eth.io, there's this command here that will let you spin up an entire project. So you could go there, spin it up, and it will basically install all the dependencies for you, and it will set up the chain, and it will set up the front end for you, and then you'll be ready to go. When we're doing it this way, we're already kind of like have that project set up. We're kind of using this kind of like template, I guess you would call it. And so we need to install all the dependencies for that. So all you need to do is do yarn install inside of that. Did it actually check it out? Let's see. What's that? Oh, thank you. I'm like, I woke up at 3 a.m. by the way, so if I'm a little off today, then that's why. Okay, so I'm using, some of you guys might notice, I have like 3 terminals open. I'm just using tmux, which just like splits my terminal into split screens. You kind of like with Scaffold-ETH, you always need a few windows open because you're gonna need to run your chain on one window. You're gonna need to run your front end on another window. And you're gonna need to do all your like command line deploys and stuff in this next window. If you're using like Cursor, by the way, if you're not using some kind of like editor like that, you definitely should be. Cursor is really good, that's what I use. It's got full AI functionality. So I'll be using that today. You can open these into separate cursor tabs if you choose, but I just like to use the command line, so I just tend to keep these open. Okay, so it's installing right now. So let's just kind of let it go do its thing. And then let's go look through the files real quick. So again, we will go into this token API Scaffold-ETH directory, and I'm going to load up this project in Cursor. Let's see if this is okay though. You guys read that okay? Okay, so this Scaffold-ETH is basically, Okay, Scaffold-ETH is basically a mono repo. So what that just means is that it has multiple packages. And so inside of the packages directory, you'll see in this case, the standard Scaffold-ETH comes with a chain, right? So when you set it up, you choose Hard Hat or Foundry. So this template, when I created it, I used Hard Hat. So we have a Hard Hat directory. Inside there is where all your smart contracts are. So if you want to write your smart contract, it's inside this contracts folder, and it's where the Solidity is. So in this case, this is the contract that came with Scaffold-ETH. We probably will have AI edit it here in a little bit, but that's where it is. It's in the hard hat folder and then inside contracts. Then you have your front end folder. So this is Next.js. We're using basically React. We're using app router. So if you look inside this app folder, you'll notice that there are these specific URIs that are all available. So what that means is that if you go to localhost 3000/API/block explorer/debug/subgraph, these are all endpoints available. So this is where all the front end code is. So it's good to know that, because when you're using AI, you might tell it like, hey, I'm trying to get this particular page to not work, and just know where that is. And so there's the front end there. And then there's a subgraph folder. Now, this template is really for the token API, but it also supports setting up a local subgraph configuration as well. So normally you would deploy a subgraph to the Graphs network, but if you wanted to, this has a Docker file inside of this graph node file that allows you to spin up the graph on your local machine. So if you're using, has anyone here used Docker? Very simple. Dockers are just like little virtual machines that run on your machine. You don't need to know Docker, but this is the full file for you to spin up and run a virtual kind of subgraph configuration on your machine. So super powerful if you just want to test locally and not use the graph network, because when you do it on the graph network, you're using machines that are not in your control. And so just to know, that's where that folder is right there. So let's see if this is still installing. The internet's a little slow, so we'll let it keep going. So your contract soul is basically a very starter contract. So it comes with pretty much just the basic stuff, like it's kind of a hello world contract. So it has this like basic greeting that we see here called greeting. It has a Boolean, it has a counter, which is like a uint 256. It's got a mapping. So in Solidity, there's this concept of mapping where you can basically map one variable to another variable. And so in this case, we keep track of how many times a particular user changes the greeting. And we also have events that get minted, stuff like that. And we have like a modifier that allows us to basically make rules. So modifiers are kind of ways to like require something to happen. It's kind of like a require statement, very similar. And it allows you to like require that a particular thing gets passed here at a certain time of runtime, basically. And so this is a very basic smart contract, but we'll probably like erase it and just basically build a new one. Why did that fail? No. It's definitely taking a long time to install, like too long. I wonder if it's my internet connection. All right, we'll let it sit a second. Okay. And then something else about Scaffold-ETH that I want to talk about is inside the Next.js folder, there is a way to configure the scaffold configuration. And something you'll notice is that we have this chains configuration. So when you're using Scaffold-ETH, you're going to deploy everything pretty much locally here on your local machine. But at some point, you might decide to deploy your smart contract to like a test net, like base Sepolia or Sepolia. And so you have this kind of like master configuration where you could deploy your contract with hard hat, and then you can make changes here to where your front end will point to. And so just kind of keep that in mind. We also like use a default API key, which is like the build guilds API key. You'll probably want to update that with your own API key at some point so that you have it. Because when you finally move to production, it might slow down and start to use the public RPC provider. And so you'll need to upgrade that API key. And then I'm trying to think what else I can show real quick. Okay, so this specific build of the token API of Scaffold-ETH has this concept of hooks and components. So similar to Scaffold-ETH. So who here knows what a hook is? Okay, I'll explain. So generally speaking, when you're building a front end and you're creating an application for your front end, you're either writing it in JavaScript or TypeScript. Hopefully you're writing in TypeScript. You should definitely be always asking it to do TypeScript. AI is probably smart enough to always write in TypeScript because it's easier at TypeScript. But all of the functionality that comes with Scaffold-ETH uses hooks. And so what this allows you to do is it allows you to easily reference a hook to do some specific thing over and over and over again. And so if we come to Scaffold-ETH and we look at this interacting with your smart contract on the docs page, you'll notice that there's two hooks that are like at the very top that are the most important. One is the read contract hook. So this is what a hook is. So it's basically allows us to say, okay, well, we want to create a variable and get back some data from the response from the hook. And we can put that data into whatever we want to name it. So in this case, we're creating a data object that's called total counter. And we can just call the hook. So we call the hook called use scaffold read contract. And what's cool about the hook is it takes in these special types. Okay, so if you heard the word types, what that means is it's like you need to pass in this string to get back whatever you need to do. And so if you were to look at this hook, it would take in a certain requirements. So in this case, it takes in 2 strings, actually 3 strings as optional arguments. And it allows us to see what the greeting is, or the greeting counter. So all you need to do on your front end is exactly point it to this docs page anytime you want to read anything from the blockchain. And as long as you have this kind of like contract defined in your configuration, you'll be able to read that data. So in this case, we're passing in an address. So this is what an Ethereum address looks like. If you're not familiar with that, it's basically this like long string, which is basically a hash. And we're able to get some data back. The other hook that's really cool is the use scaffold write contract hook. So if you want to read contract data from the blockchain, very, very simple. You can just run this read. But if you want to actually write contract data, then there's a whole nother hook for that. And so here we can just reference what the name of the contract is, and then do that kind of use scaffold write contract. And here's an example of what we're doing with a button where we're saying like, well, we want someone to be able to change a greeting. They can come in here and set the greeting. They can take in specific arguments. They can pass value in the transaction. So like it makes it really easy. And so if you're using AI, you can kind of just point AI at this page and tell them, hey, I want to build this smart contract. I want my front end to do this. And it will kind of automatically know how to do that. This is not installing. I might have to start from scratch here. I should have definitely installed this ahead of time. Let me try this. Let's do this. Let's start from scratch again real quick. So we'll go here to Scaffold-ETH and we'll run this command so you guys can see the flow. So I'm going to do cd temp and I'm going to run this npx create ETH at latest. It's going to ask me if I want to install that package. I'm going to say yes. So this is going to download the Scaffold-ETH npx binary, and then it's going to ask you what you want to name your project. And I know that's really hard to see, but if you look down here at the bottom, you guys can't see it in the back. It wants to know the name. You know what I can do is go like this. There we go, so you guys can see. So it asks us, what do we want to name a project? So we'll call this ETH NY or ETH Global NYC. It's going to ask you what framework you want to use. So in this case, I personally like Hardhat. If you're new to crypto, Hardhat's been around a little longer. Foundry is a little faster. This is basically like your chain that you're running on your local machine. It's like a tool for like testing your smart contract. So it's really up to you. I would just use Hardhat. So this is going to install all the dependencies. Let's hope this one doesn't fail. And we'll try to use this project to build something right now. I'm not sure why this one's failing. But. So at this time, what it's doing is it's basically installing all of the contents from the package that are required. So like with any project, you have certain packages that are required. And then it basically initiates an empty Git repository, and then it formats all the files so that they look pretty and there's no like formatting issues. So let's go into ETH Global. So it's the same exact setup inside this folder. If we look at it, we have this packages folder. And in this case, we just have only the two different directories. So we have the hard hat and the Next.js. Because if you don't choose like an extension, or it only comes with these two different packages inside of your project. But let's say you wanted to build a subgraph. There is this subgraph extension here where you could have just done this -e flag, and it would also add in this extra code. And so you might want to, if you're going to hack at the hackathon and you're going to build something specific, like maybe base or something like that, or like here's a Chainlink extension for Chainlink, or like let's say you're going to do an ERC 721, which is like an NFT. There's a special one for that. So maybe look at the extensions to see if there's one is available. And then at the time of you deploying it, there we go. Okay, this one's working. I don't know what's going on with the other one. Okay, so I'm going to go into the ETH Global NYC directory here. And sorry. Okay, so inside of here, I'm going to run yarn start. Okay, we're finally going to get to doing some coding here. I talk too much. Sorry, guys. All right. Okay, so now yarn start is going to spin up our blockchain. Okay. So if you're running Foundry or Hard Hat, your blockchain, you'll know it's working when it says ready. Sorry, yarn start is going to spin up your front end. Sorry, I needed to do yarn chain. What am I doing today? Yarn chain is going to spin up your blockchain. Yarn start over here is going to spin up your front end. So here you'll see all these like private keys that will pop up. Don't use those for a main address. Those are just for testing. And then over here is your front end. Okay, so this is going to be your Next.js running on port 3000. Then down here, we can do a yarn deploy, -- reset. So if you do yarn deploy, it's going to take that smart contract that comes with Scaffold-ETH, which is inside this hard hat folder right here, and it's going to deploy it over here on the left to your chain. Okay, so you'll see that we get some output. Your front end is not going to change, and we'll see here we get some output. So the way Scaffold-ETH works is when you deploy your contract locally, it generates this contract right here. This TypeScript file called deployed contracts. And what's cool about this file is it's all of the types that allow you to interact with your smart contract. So if I load up Scaffold-ETH now on port 3000, give it a second. It just needs to compile. Come on. My machine is not running good. Let me try closing this. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So this is what Scaffold-ETH looks like. So you'll notice here that we have this like connect wallet option, and it automatically will try to actually create a wallet for you inside of the browser. So this is really cool because if you're not like crypto native right away, normally you'll know that you need some kind of like wallet to test. And so you might use like MetaMask. But what's cool about this burner wallet is it's inside of the browser session. So you can really start testing right away. So to test, all you need to do is come to this debug contracts tab right here, and we can start to see visually what our smart contract looks like. So here we have a contract that says building unstoppable apps. It has an owner, it has a premium and a counter, and it has a function to read and a function to write, two functions to write that allow us to set that greeting. So if I come here and say ETH Global NYC and hit send, it's going to say I don't have enough funds to pay for gas. And that's because we're using this burner wallet, but it doesn't have any ETH in it. So it gets randomly generated a private key and stored inside the browser. But we have this little button right here that lets us get some funds in the top right corner. That will give us some ETH. So now we have, $4,717 in ETH. Yay for the price of ETH, by the way. And then hit send. And now it's going to update. So now we'll see that I made a change, and then we got that like greeting update, right? And we could say like, hello, what's up? And hit send. And we're basically creating these transactions and we're testing our smart contract at this point. And so if we come over here, we'll see that output. We'll also see everything that's happening with our front end, and we'll see if there's any console log, like if we do a redeploy. Now, if I do another deploy and I reset, this will basically force a new contract, and it will basically wipe out everything that I just did, right? And let me start from scratch, okay? So let's try to build something like vibe code. Does anyone have any cool ideas of something that they would like to see? I always like to ask. Anything interesting? Does anyone want to dox their hackathon idea and I'll try to build it right now? Now I'll just give you the source code. Any ideas? No? Lending protocol? Oh, that's good. Like, okay. That's a tough one though, but yeah, we could try. Let's do a basic lending protocol. I like that. Okay, so I'm gonna completely wipe away this screen over here because we're not gonna look too much at the code, but like, okay, so I'm gonna say, okay, my contracts are in @ and I can choose your contract. I want to make a basic lending protocol with a stable coin. Yeah, let's see. And by the way, over-collateralized lending stablecoins are very complex. There's a challenge on the build guild on the speedrun Ethereum that goes into them. I would highly recommend you guys take those. And that will like teach you about that stuff. There's actually a whole bunch of challenges. If you go to speedrunethereum.com, little side quest real quick. If you come to speedrun Ethereum and you're kind of new to building on Ethereum, there's all these different missions you can do or challenges where you can build different things on Ethereum. And one of those is this over-collateralized lending and one on stable coins as well. So check those out. Okay, so let's go back. So we want to make a basic lending protocol. So does anyone know what a lending protocol is? Basically this idea, you know? Yeah? Anyone not know? Okay, well, why don't you explain like briefly? Either one. Yield. So we want to get yield. Yeah. Okay. So we want to be able to deposit ETH. We want to be able to deposit ETH and get back something in return and gain some yield on our ETH, something like that. Also, we'll just tell it to like make a basic front end. Let's see if it can do it in Next.js. Okay, so if you're using cursor, there's this like auto mode. Yeah, that's here. Yeah, so this is like me choosing what LM I want to use. Oh no, it does it automatically. Yeah, so that's that the LM. So this LLMs.txt, I think this is what you're asking about on here. This is like for crawlers that are crawling the site to know exactly how to interact with this tool. So this is not related, but I will tell you that there is an MDC file inside here. So if you go to cursor, there's an MDC file. This is kind of like a markdown file that tells AI exactly like how to interact with your project. And so there's one already written for Scaffold-ETH here, which will help your AI experience as you build. How much time do I have, by the way? I got like 30 more minutes, yeah? Okay, so let's just shoot and see what it does. So it's going to hopefully create a new smart contract for me, and it's going to build a basic thing there. So I'm using Claude. I particularly like Claude a lot. I don't like GPT-5, it's too slow. We would fall asleep while I was on stage here. Claude is a little bit faster. I think it's just a little bit better at like live coding anyways. So yeah, so it should be going through right now. So now it's trying to write the contract. While it's doing that, let me see if I can bring anything up in the docs that maybe is important. So we talked about the hooks, reading and writing from your contract. Those are both really important ones. There's also one for the components. So these are actual like reusable components that are really nice. Like one that does the ENS resolution and will display the little image from the PFP for the user's ENS. It also has that little copy paste icon, which is really nice. And so hopefully the AI knows that you have all these components already and it will try to use those. But if it ever tries to build its own component, sometimes it will just go off on a tangent. You can always tell it like, hey, like make the address look nice like this. There's also a balance component that you'll notice when I got some ETH from the faucet, it switches between the price of ETH and the actual ETH. There's also an address input component that lets you do ENS resolution. So ENS is like the Ethereum name service that allows you to have a short name for a long address. There's an Ether input one that lets you put in just ETH or dollars amount and figures out what those are and switches them for you. And then there's just like an empty input that you can use for whatever you want, which has the same styling basically. And same thing goes for integer. And then there's these like block keys, which if you want to use something like that. So those components are really nice. There's also other hooks that you might want to use like to get event data. Hopefully you'll eventually use a subgraph in your project and you won't really need to use those event ones, but if you need to, they're there. Okay, so it wrote the smart contract. Let's take a look at it. I'm just curious. So one thing you'll notice about Cursor is it will just give you the diff, right, of what was changed. I personally really like that, especially if you're like just getting into understanding what's going on. It really lets you kind of get an idea. Like some people just accept all the changes and then deploy it and never look at it. But if you're really trying to learn, I would recommend that you go through and like read what it did, at least at the start. So you kind of gonna know. So it created a stable coin and it imported the stable coin. It created positions. It created events for all this stuff going on. It created a deposit function, a withdraw function, a claim yield function, update yield function, which allows it to like keep track probably every time that someone deposits or withdraws, a get user position. It wrote a lot of code. It wrote a decent amount. Okay, so I'm going to accept those changes. It also made the deploy script change. So Scaffold-ETH has this deploy script right below. And you'll notice that it edited that as well for me, which is really cool. Let's see if it actually did it right though. Yeah, it just does some console log. We kept the same contract name, so it didn't really need to change much. It just added some like output to show what was deployed. Okay, so let's see if it's done with the front end. Okay, it's done. Okay, so we have the chain already up, so now we'll deploy again. So when you do -- reset, it basically forces a new contract. So that's just habit of mine. Okay, so it did work. Let's try to go to Scaffold-ETH now. Nice. Okay, so the contract deployed and looks pretty good. We have this ability, so it's an ETH lending protocol. It's got like a dashboard basically that it created. So we can try to deposit some ETH. So let me get a bunch of ETH. Let me get like a bunch. I'm gonna be a whale here. All right, 14 ETH. So I can deposit, this still has it 10 ETH. So I deposited 10 ETH and then I wonder, so I think probably we can like simulate blocks by mining by getting more ETH like this. So with Hard Hat or Foundry, like it doesn't automatically like mine. So if you're doing something that's time-based and you're trying to see what the yield would be, you might not be able to see if it's working or not without kind of like forcing it to mine. So that's just me like forcing it to mine right now. And then let's try to refresh and see. So this just has the collateral, but this doesn't give me the ability to actually withdraw. So it lets me deposit ETH, but it doesn't let me Does it just?
I think it was ready to use like a stablecoin.
Yeah, but I don't see minted here. So at this point, I would just say like, well, we could look over here and see too. So you're probably right. Yeah. You see the deposit. Oh, that's the what do you call it? The faucet. Yeah, but I don't see any stable coins minted, so that's kind of interesting. So it could be that it's not working. What we could do is just try to copy paste this in here and see. But,
can you use the blur?
oh yeah, we could do that. Yeah, let's see. This one will be the local one actually.
Did you deploy?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So these are the faucets. So this was the deposit. I wonder if we click it. Yeah, it's hard to debug it, but it's all like encoded. What I would say is like, let's see, let's just type it in real quick and say like, I'm not sure if this minted any stable coins. How can we make it clearer? All right, let's see what it does. And then after that, what I'll try to do is I'll try to point it at all the documentation for the token API, see if we can get that working. Just like try to do a very basic thing like an integration with the token API. Because if you're hacking the hackathon, you'll write your smart contract, right? If you're going to write some smart contract, you'll deploy it. You'll set up someone will create a front end for you. You might need a subgraph, right? Because you want to get all the data from your smart contract. So you'll do that. That's really easy to do. You can just go to thegraph.com and go to the studio and create a subgraph on the page, and it will walk you through how to do it. Very simple to do. And then maybe you might want to get some information in your front end that isn't available in your subgraph. So we'll kind of assume that maybe it's the token API. So it's doing a bunch of code changes. So but while that's doing that, I'm going to kind of context switch a little bit here. So if you go to thegraph.com and you go to this docs section, there's pretty good docs for like all the stuff related to the graph. There's a whole section on subgraphs. Again, subgraphs are really easy. There's a CLI to like create a subgraph and deploy it, and it will automatically build a complete subgraph for you as long as you have the smart contract verified. So whoever's deploying your smart contract, make sure they verify your smart contract and you'll be good. And then Substreams is a little more complicated. I wouldn't recommend it for a hackathon unless you're a Rust developer and you've maybe have some experience with data and understanding like how blocks look and how the event is the data is structured, because it is a little bit more complicated. But what I want to show is the token API. So the token API has EVM endpoints. Those are going to be most important for you, and they're all listed here. So you can get balances, you can get transfers, you can get how much tokens a particular holder has, you can get metadata, you can get Uniswap data, open, high, low, and close, and volume. You can get liquidity pools and swap events on Uniswap. And then there's a whole bunch of NFT endpoints as well. So if you want to get like, all the owners of a pudgy penguin or something like that, right? And this is a REST API. And what's cool is it gives you all of the examples of how to test it and get the data back. And we can just point our front end at this in a second. So first of all, let's see what happened with Scaffold-ETH here. Let me try to get some more ETH. And then I'll try to, I did deposit. Oh yeah, ETH-B and wallets. So yeah, I deposited 10 ETH. Oh no, that's ETH-B. That's weird. Huh. It's very strange. Let me redeploy real quick. A stablecoin is a very complicated thing to demo on stage, by the way. But it's you know, I guess it's a good thing to see if you can vibe code it. Okay, so there's some errors, which is not good. We could probably, so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just grab the error and just like paste it in while I'm doing something else. See if it can like fix it. So we deployed, and let's see if it lets me actually do it though. So deposit 10 ETH. Uh-oh. Successful, deposited 10 ETH, stable coins have been minted to your wallet. But how do we see like, oh, here we go. Okay, 9,333.33 ETH-B. So this is hard coding the ETH price. So basically, this is going to get a little complicated, but you know, you really need like some kind of source of truth for the price of ETH. So in this case, because we need to figure out what the ratio is, we don't know, like we don't have like what do you call it, like a decentralized exchange in our smart contract. So it was like hard coded in here. And so this was what kind of like figures out what the collateralization is, which I'm not going to get too far into the weeds on this, but that's why you see this ETH price at 2,000 when actually the ETH price is like closer to 5K. And then we can burn stable coins as well here. So let's try to burn. So it says we have 9,333. So what happens if I burn 9,000? Okay, it's working. So now I only have 0.3 ETH left. So it's working. It's a very basic, yeah. You're gonna ask a question?
Yeah, so I mean, for the price, there are like particles. So I don't know, like, what I want to like, let's it calculate like price from our particle.
Yeah, that's what you would want to do, right? So the question is like, how do you get the price? You would, yeah, reference an article like Chainlink or something like that. Or like, I think you might be able to get it from Uniswap or something if you like inherit the contract or something like that. In the stablecoin challenge, you'll kind of learn more about that, but it's hard coded as well. But this is a really good kind of walkthrough if anyone does want to understand how stablecoins work and wants to learn about over collateralized lending as well. There's videos from ETHCC, I think it was, no, ETH Prague, on the ETH Global YouTube that go over these topics as well. So if you want to watch those, they're really useful as well. Okay, so let's try to just integrate one. We have like 15 minutes. So I just wanted to try to integrate the API in here. Let's see if we can like one-shot it. So I'm going to say like, all right, we're going to go to the graph docs. Where is it at? thegraph.com/docs. We're going to go to, oh my God, why is my computer? I know, all of a sudden it like freaked out on me. It was working fine. Okay, docs. Okay, so token API and EVM endpoints. And then we'll just go like this. We'll say like, I also want the interface to look like a wallet so I can showcase the top 10 most popular tokens and get info from the graph token API. Okay, and I'm just going to paste in that link there. And I'm trying to think if there's also like, trying to think how else you could do it. You could give it the Swagger endpoint, which sometimes is useful because then it'll have everything. But I don't know how to get it here. I was trying to figure out one page that might have all the things, but okay, so we're going to need to authenticate for the API. So that's one thing we're going to have to do. So let me just start it real quick. And I'll just say I will set the graph token JWT like this for that API. So I need to make this and I need to basically add that env file. So in Next.js, I have an env example. So I can just rename this to .env. And inside that file, I need to put this. So to get a key, you need to go to the graph.market and you need to sign in. And you can sign in with Google. So this is a website for just the API key for Substreams, Firehose, and the token API. If you need a key for your subgraphs, that's through the graph.com studio. Two different places, sorry. It's a little confusing. But so I've actually been querying the token API. I already have a key. So I can just go ahead and grab, well, let me just make a new one. Demo, create, and here it is. Okay, so I can just copy it and I can paste it here. It's a long string. It's basically, it's a jot key. Okay, so now let's see if it's able to do it. Okay, so it's creating everything. So what I will say, if I could have gotten it to work, is the demo that I was gonna do is using that GitHub repo. So
Hi guys. I guess we have some technical issues. I will send some message to the people right there, but we can see that, yeah, this is a very good thing they are doing. It's hard to follow it, but well, there's a lot of technical things, and they are doing while vibing. You know, they're just typing stuff, so the editor can create code, and after that they can create something with it. I would like to know if anyone has a question, and I can share with them later when they get back to it. I'm trying to reach out actually to see what's going on the other side of the video. But if you guys can share what your thoughts right now on the construction they are doing, would be great for us to have a communication. And yeah, that's it. I'm waiting on a question actually. Okay, they're back.
sorry about that.
Okay.
I will reshare. How long have I been in radio silence?
I guess 40 seconds, 1
Oh,
minute.
okay. That's not bad. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so it's going through, it's doing it. Okay. Why is it trying to move a file? Uh-oh, AI is getting weird on me. So basically I'm trying to just give like a wallet interface. I gave it the API key. It's defined here, the graph token jot, and it should be creating everything. Let's see what it does. Oh, wow, that looks pretty good actually. Looks really cool. It completely erased all of my lending protocol stuff though, which is kind of weird. I guess it assumed I was just starting over. So I don't see any token data, so maybe we can ask, we'll just say there's no token found. So can you get real data? Okay. So it still looks pretty good though. Looks like a good wallet. So we can go to view, developer tools, and let's see what it looks like on mobile. It looks pretty good. Okay. Oh, there it is, lending. Cool. Yeah, so it is there. That looks pretty darn good for AI just to make like a couple minutes. It says the environment variable is not set up. But yeah, it is. It's right here, right? I might need to restart the development server maybe. Try to restart real quick. So sometimes you might have to restart React. That'd be cool if we can get like the top 10 tokens to show up, you know. And if GRT was the top. Okay. While this is loading, anyone have questions? I know I've been yapping for a while here, so I hope I'm not boring you guys, and hope you guys are like finding some knowledge here. But any questions? How to write a subgraph with AI?
You know, most people know that. It's more about how to create subgraph.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is you don't really even, if you want to do more advanced subgraph stuff, then you can use AI. But in the case of the graph, we have a CLI. So if you go to thegraph.com and you go to products, subgraphs, actually, yeah, we'll go to Studio. So you come into the studio, you sign a message with your wallet. You then can create a subgraph. You can name it whatever. Create. Oh, please log in first. Jeez. Okay, so Subgraph Studio. Create subgraph, example subgraph. Hit create, and it will give you all the commands you need to do. So you choose what network it's on. So let's say it's on Ethereum mainnet. It tells you how to install the CLI, how to init the subgraph, how to authenticate to the studio from this. So this is your like key. You go into the directory and you run these commands here. So when you run graph init, it's going to ask you like the contract address, and then it's going to automatically discover like the ABI and like everything it needs, the start block, the start time, stuff like that. And it's going to scaffold it out for you as long as the subgraph is verified. And then from in there, if you can just use AI to ask any question, you know, like make the subgraph do XYZ, and it will be able to do it because it's also using types. Okay, so let's see if this is loading now. Huh, it says no tokens found. It could be because I don't have any tokens in this wallet. Maybe if I disconnect and connect with like this, my actual wallet, let's see. Oh, nice, it worked. Cool, so that's pretty good. It's on the wrong network, so it's a hard hat. Wow, so it is working. So it doesn't show the price though. It looks like the prices aren't working unless this is just really $1.70, which is really, really bad. But you get the idea. Like we were able to integrate with the API. Oh, this is fake data though. So use real data. I have set. See if we get it working. Oh, it needs to be a .env.local. Okay.
I did not trust you. It was checking if you really have a secret.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to connect back to MetaMask. Well, let's try it. Okay, it's still updating. Yeah, it's like fake data because I don't have that much money. I'm not that rich. Let's let me do this too. Let me connect to the burner wallet. Huh. Either way, it's able to do like pretty good stuff. I think it was very close to getting it. So it wants to restart it. Let me try to restart it one more time. Okay, it's still loading. Any other questions at all? This is so weird. Huh. No tokens found for your wallet. Oh, can we just, let's ask it, display top 10 tokens by price, even if I don't own them. Let's see what it can do. So I'm just going to try to get it some data in here so it looks good.
Some questions in the,
Oh, there's questions in the chat.
for example, ideation.
Is it where how do I see it?
Comments.
Here. Ah, okay.
It was asking some hackathon ideas, maybe payments, split payments. Maybe you want to suggest some hackathon ideas for the graph?
Yeah, for sure. So for the bounties, so if we look at ETH Global NYC, I need to remind myself exactly what the bounties are, but like, let's look real quick. There's basically two different categories, I believe. Come on. Okay, here we go. So if we go to prizes and we'll go to the graph. Where is it at? Here we go. So it's $10,000 total for the graph. It's split up in two different categories. So one is the best use of the graph token API or subgraphs or substreams or usage of our AI MCP servers. So we also have a Subgraph MCP server and we have a token API MCP server. So I would say bonus points probably for AI related stuff because we're trying to get people to build AI related stuff on the graph. So I would highly recommend maybe having some kind of like agent or some kind of, like some kind of interaction with the MCP servers would be useful to see what people can kind of do there. For the token API, probably like using it as like a wallet, something like that. For subgraphs, we want people to go above and beyond the normal subgraph. So if you create a subgraph with the CLI, it builds one for you. But we want you to make a better subgraph. So don't just submit just the basic subgraph because we won't accept it. Substreams, anything interesting with substreams is always a plus. Is it's a complicated product, so it's hard to do. So if you do something interesting and you're a Rust developer and you have the skills, then do that. The other one is Hypergraph. So I would say the Hypergraph is one of the categories. It has its own category because we want people to build interesting applications that make sense to be deployed on a knowledge graph. So if you can think of anything that is like coordinated online data, what's cool about Hypergraph is it supports, I think we have it up and running, where you can do private and public data. So you can build an application and you can deploy all of your data in a private way with a sync server. And so then you can then take that data and then publish it to the knowledge graph as public data. So any concept that you can think of that uses that flow, where like you're creating an application that you could publish data onto the Hypergraph, would be really cool. So there are some examples right here: crypto projects directory, an investment graph showing like relationships between different things, a dApp registry showing like all the dApps in the ecosystem, something that will allow you to explore DAO governance and show visualization. So any of this idea with like a reusable, composable data on knowledge graphs would be really cool to see. Cool. Any other questions? Any other questions here? Yeah.
I'm wondering if this could work
With LLMs? Which part? The scaffolding? So, the example that I showed in this GitHub project, if I can find it, there's a, where's it at? So if you go to examples, you go to agents, and then go to the graph agent Scaffold-ETH. This uses OpenAI. So it uses Vercel AI SDK and OpenAI. So you can switch it to like Gemini or whatever LLM you want. And this is a starter kit with an agent that would let you interact with the graph via an LLM. So yes, this would be what I would look at. That's the only thing that we really have. You could also build something from scratch that would work with the Subgraph MCP server or the token API MCP server. That'd be cool as well.
follow-up question. Once you load it on how to improve this Subgraph, I was wondering, can you like sort of train the agent to a specific
Yeah, so the question was, like this particular package, if you hook it up to Vercel AI SDK and OpenAI, like, can you, like, I guess the question was, can you train the agent to do more off of the data? That would be a cool thing for you to build. So like this concept of like agents that have memory and then they can like keep track of things and like have like long-term kind of stuff. That'd be a cool hackathon project, I think, in general, to build something like that, that kind of keeps track of like, yeah, the user's journey and as they are using the application and using the AI endpoints and the subgraphs or whatever it is, that it kind of remembers and like builds a history. But this out of the box does not do that. So you would need to build something like that on top of it. This just uses like an existing LLM. And it just allows you to like take the data from a subgraph or from token API and pipe it through the LLM and get back in a certain format or something like that.
Would you show the QR code Scaffold-Studio?
Yes. Here?
Yeah, go to the private chat.
This one right here?
Yeah. So
Cool.
this QR code to be the submission form. And the graph is really telling the report.
Here.
Tell for the live. Yeah, the graph is giving the bounty of up to $1,000 to 3 projects. The submission form is there, and 40 valid submissions. Pretty much everyone here in the room, maybe some of you watching the stream too, will get a swag bag. They have air tags, those little air tags, the graph. They have T-shirts like this. Not this one from Brazil, because this is super special. You need to go to Brazil to get one of those. But there are some others that are way, way cooler that you can get in the ETH Global too. So you scan this link. This is submission form. The deadline is Sunday at midnight, New York time. So we are going to be reviewing those submissions next week. So it's great, 2 for the price of 1 if you participate in the hackathon. Okay. So everything that Kevin showed today can be a good project, good submission. Are you going to be judging too in the hackathon?
For the graph, yes.
Okay, so listening to his ideas is going to be a great judges and can earn an extra bounty. Learn and earn at the same time, right? Good.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate your time. I'll hang out here for a little bit and answer questions. But dude, yeah, build something cool. And it was awesome to see you guys here. Thank you so much for coming. So we'll hang out for a bit. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm muted. I'm sorry. So we have this QR code here. I guess you could scan here. He's on my right side here. If you could achieve to the farm, and then it will be great for you guys to reach out for the hackathon. Okay. I will see if there's anything else left, but maybe we shouldn't here. I will try to ask about those questions before we move forward. Okay. Um, the support subgraph to get data. I would say, Kevin, are you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I can answer.
We have
Is there some more questions?
Yeah, we have some questions on the YouTube channel.
Uh, and they're the ones that are here. Okay. Did Uniswap 4 support Subgraph to get data? I think, yeah, there is a Subgraph for Uniswap 4. So it should. So if we go to thegraph.com, you can go to Explorer and you can do Uniswap. And you will see. So it looks like it's actually just, yeah, here we go. There's some that have created for base, Uniswap. So yeah, there's a bunch that are available there. See what other question.
We had the Lisa Loud has made a hackathon idea.
Okay, we answered that. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think we're good then, yeah?
Yeah. That's all of it.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for moderating and helping out. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank
It
you.
was a pleasure. You're welcome. I will end stream now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you,
Have a
buddy.
good night. Bye
Thanks
bye.
for everyone tuning in. Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye. It was a pleasure. I want to see everyone here in the next stream that we will be doing a lot of streams in those next weeks. Venture Miner is here to vibe code, and we count on you. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Bye bye.